Welcome to the Forecast by Bamboozer, your guide to the future of retail, tech, and innovation. We bring you insights from the world's frontrunners so you can stay ahead of the curve and win big. Let's go.
Hi, I'm Kabil Shah, CMO at Bamboozer, and it's my absolute privilege to welcome you to the Forecast today, the go-to podcast for video commerce. I'm super excited that we have two guests joining us for their insights today, two great minds in the space of video commerce and all things retail. We'll be hearing from them around the latest trends they're seeing for this year in this busy shopping period, but also the actionable insights that you can take away as our community and that you can adopt in your own organizations. And finally, for those who join us regularly for the podcast, it's live today, so it's interactive. So please comment, ask questions as we go along. So without further ado, I'd love to welcome my first guest, joining us from Clarins, Shannon Hartley, the virtual boutique team leader at Clarins. Shannon, thank you so much for joining us.
Hello, Kabil. We are live. So give you a little wave. I am real. This is not. Thank you for having me.
Oh, absolutely. I know it's a supremely busy period, so we really appreciate it, and as does our community. You're more used to doing the live space than myself, so I would love you to give a short introduction, if you wouldn't mind, if that's okay.
Absolutely, yeah. So hi everyone, thank you all for joining. Really excited to be talking here with Bamboozer today, particularly about our peak strategies and Black Friday madness that has definitely already started. I am the team leader for the virtual boutique here at Clarins UK. And what that means is I essentially look after our team of hosts that host our virtual events on Bamboozer, but they also carry out online personal shopping consultations over on our e-com. And I help to lead the team in presenting, hosting events, but also customer-facing consultations.
Amazing, Shannon. Thank you so much for that introduction. And I think I've mentioned it probably 3 times already during this supremely busy holiday season. I guess my first question is, how have you prepared for this holiday season when it comes to the virtual services you just talked about and live streams this year?
So we have prepared and planned a very busy lineup and schedule of different interactive, we call them pop-up events, to be streamed across the duration of Black Friday. So these sessions will showcase top gifting ideas, some of our best offers, to really make it as easy as possible for customers to choose what they shop for this season. Most importantly, it's really covering those top Black Friday offers that everyone is interested in, but really tailoring it to everyone, whether that be gifts for her, gifts for him, stocking filler ideas, but really making sure that these were planned well in advance and working cross-functionally with our teams from CRM to social so that we're getting as much promotion as possible.
Amazing. So you're bringing all the different teams together to ensure this period is like a digital dream team working in tandem. So could you touch a little bit more on the strategies that you've put in place to provide that amazing customer experience that you do at Clarins today, and the work that goes into it, I guess?
Definitely. I would say there are 3 main strategies that we have when planning our virtual events, particularly for this time of year. First one is making sure that the content is engaging and relevant for our consumers. So we will plan based on our top searches, perhaps working with acquisition to ensure that the content is relevant. So that's where the ideas of indulgent gifting, stocking fillers, particular products that need pushing, perhaps, that need a little bit more of a highlight. So we'll help to plan there and make sure that the content is engaging. I briefly mentioned cross-channel promotion, so ensuring that everyone from our CRM teams and social are fully aware of what we have in the lineup, so that if there's an email being sent it's relevant for them to include that stocking fillers event if the email is about that specifically. And more importantly, it's ensuring that the offers are timed accordingly. So making sure that we stream our live event when we have the most people on site, or that we're putting it on particular pages that reach that audience. So just to recap, it's engaging content, cross-promotionally working with our other teams within our digital business, and ensuring that the timing is correct as well.
Yeah, and I think that goes across marketing, trying to get those kind of the art and science correct in those type of strategies, right? Right timing, right person, and obviously engaging relevant content. So love the way that you're putting it together at Clarence. Have you done something differently this year? Is there anything that you've tried, or if there's something that you want to share with the audience that you might have done differently when it comes to video commerce or digital clienteling, like something that you've introduced this year that you're testing?
Yes. So previously, we would host a live event and it would just stream solely at that time, for example, 12 p.m.
Okay.
Earlier this year, our team at Bambuza introduced us to something called the floating action button. We call it FAB. We call it FAB. And this is essentially where we can have the floating action button constantly within any page that we choose on our website. What that means is that we're targeting more people. So more people are gaining visibility of this FAB button.
Yeah, we call it fab too, Shannon. So yeah, absolutely.
So they're having more visibility of it. We're also then able to use that button on our other channels. So I've already mentioned email and social. But we can choose when it goes live and when we turn it off. For example, we had an event stream at 12 o'clock today, and it's still streaming now thanks to the FAB button. And what it meant is that the difference is we'd already seen double-digit growth versus last year in terms of our event revenue.
Oh, wow.
So a huge success for us, and it's making it more relevant to our consumers watching the events too.
Amazing. And I think you touched upon visibility as well. So it's super important to try the fab button, but to have it visible across all channels. You mentioned email, your website. And I guess one of the conversations we have with brands is making sure that the fab button isn't intrusive, right? So we do a lot of testing to make sure that it's not intrusive and it's something that's seamless, especially in the beauty space. So I'd love to understand a bit more about that. How are you measuring the performance? You talked about event revenue. Is visibility and numbers also of people coming through the site that you're looking into?
Yeah, I mean, it's one thing looking at how much revenue it drives, but I also like to look at conversion, AOV. We could have plenty of viewers, but perhaps they're not all converting. Luckily, that's not the case with us, but it's still very much test and learn. We started doing this concept in around June this year, so this is the first Black Friday that we have done it across the whole of Black Friday. And that's how we're measuring it for now. I mean, you could look at average viewing time, but I want to make sure that average viewing time is valuable and it's ensuring a conversion as well, and not just views.
Understood. It's not just about the views, it's actually what are you driving in terms of conversion. Shannon, thank you so much for sharing that. Just to tell our listeners, Shannon's not going away. She'll be with us for the rest of the sessions, including, more importantly, the trends for 2025. But thank you so much for that first session, Shannon. We're just going to bring in Cecilia Demant, who is a video commerce expert. I've had the pleasure of working with her for a long time now. has worked with major clients around the world, including Matas, setting up video commerce strategy. And I'm super excited to have you on the podcast, Cecilia. So welcome. Would you mind giving a short, brief introduction?
Sure. Thank you, Kabil. And nice to see you, everyone. I can see people are tuning in from NYC, from Stockholm, all over the place. I am based in Denmark. My name is Cecilia Demal, and I've been working with live shopping and video commerce for 4 years now, since the pandemic started, basically, and on a few different sides, honestly, in front of the camera, the strategic stuff, also working with Bambuser, helping the clients succeed with video commerce. So some of you might have seen my face before, and now I'm an independent consultant, also helping any player in video commerce succeed, basically. So I'm super happy to be back.
Amazing. And 4 years, wow. I mean, a pioneer of the space, right? With so many different customers and clients. So I guess getting straight into it, CNN style, let's get to the questions. What would be your top 3 tips for someone looking to embrace video commerce ahead of this all-important event of Black Friday, the Christmas period, the holiday season? What would be your top tips for someone trying to embrace a video commerce strategy?
So number one, ahead of any like big sales period, big event, I would say create a comprehensive content calendar. That would be my top tip. And I would preferably align that with your commercial calendar that's going on in the rest of the organization anyway, as Shannon also mentioned right before, that they, sync up their Black Friday events with whatever promotions are going on. That's a great thing to do, in my opinion. All campaigns should have a corresponding live show. So when I sit down with customers, one of the first things that I do is to ask them, what does your commercial calendar look like? And then you can start building from there. So you build out a content calendar that hits every target group and touch on any product vertical if you are maybe a multi-brand or multi-industry retailer, so to speak. It's also great, I would say, ahead of a big sales period, to tweak your content to be more focus on conversions here and now. We talk a lot about at Bambuser, I know you guys talk a lot about evergreen content and having it live for years and years to generate value for years to come. But when we are in these intense sales periods, you want to convert right away. So that's what I would optimize the content for. The next tip I would give and do ahead of any like big sales period would be to build out a dedicated universe. I know a lot of people already do this with Christmas, but have you done so, for example, ahead of winter vacation or summer holidays? So basically create a full immersive universe that people can come to, where your content is front and center. And that could be all sorts of content, shoppable and otherwise. Imagine scrolling through almost a summer inspiration magazine with a little shoppable video here and a show there and an article here and maybe some influencer input over here. That would really be something super valuable to do, that you can just funnel people to across all channels. I would also say, while you're at it, jazz up your studio. People love to see that extra effort going in. So if you are streaming something about New Year's Eve, well, show up in a nice tux or a glittery dress when you're hosting. Really match the vibes of the season. And then,
Absolutely.
and then I would say the last tip I want to give is for anyone working with digital clienteling or one-to-one consultations. You can actually theme those too. I've been working with a few clients asking me, like, how can we optimize for gift shopping periods? And what you can actually do, you can do this in a few different ways. So one, you can send out invitations to your top customers and urging them to book a consultation, showcasing like new products or top gifting options where you've basically already planned the content, but just at a smaller scale. This works incredibly well in the luxury space, but can also, of course, be applied to mid-market as well. You could also let your sales agents have physical products at the ready to showcase. I know that a lot of sales agents, they might co-browse, which is like a great feature. You can look at the website together. But what we actually know is that if you have a product physically, now I'm just grabbing the lipstick that I'm wearing today, it's much more convincing, because then you can like show what it looks like, the color and everything. So if you in any way can, maybe have your top 10 most popular SKUs ready at hand for the sales agents to talk about, instead of only showcasing through a screen. And then lastly, you can theme your consultation. So think about blocking out a full day where you can only book time slots for gifting consulting or picking the best skiing gear or something like that.
I love that. I love that, Cecilia. So I think to recap those three, because this, and I love the energy and excitement you bring to these, to the live space. So comprehensive content calendar. So if you haven't planned it, it might be a little bit late, right? So build out a dedicated universe, like you mentioned. And then the final part was around theming your digital clienteling in your video consultations and bringing your A game to those and getting into the spirit of the holiday season. Okay. What about some low hanging fruit? What could customers and clients do today and brands do today to really get the most out of this season in terms of performance and really instantly increase their video commerce performance?
Yeah, that's a great question. So this would be a low-hanging fruit actually, regardless of season, but one thing is
Okay.
visibility. I still see way too many players in the video commerce space not actually prioritizing making their video commerce offerings visible, where you sort of have to dig through a bunch of pie menus to get there. I would put it front and center, because we know that on average, video commerce converts better than other types of content, as well as regular landing pages. So why not drive as much traffic as you possibly can? That would definitely be number one. If you're not already visible on the homepage, you should definitely do so. Shannon talked about activating the floating action button, which is a Bamboozer feature. That's a great way to drive eyeballs throughout the day if you have recurring shows or whatever. But basically, put it front and center. And my best advice would to create for this like a cohesive marketing plan for your video commerce initiatives, and then push it across channels. So from socials to app to email, and of course integrate directly into your ecom across as many touch points as possible, so people can randomly stumble across a shoppable video here or a video consultation there. I think that would really help, obviously drive more traffic and more conversions. And don't be afraid of actually investing and going all in this space, because that's basically the way to build loyalty and to have people return for more. And then another low-hanging fruit, I'm just going to give you guys two, otherwise we could talk about this all day. But that would be to repurpose your content at scale. And that should be quite natural if you're going on all in on visibility anyway, because that will allow you to repurpose your content across channels. And this can go both ways. So either you can take the content that you create specifically for example, a live shopping show, and repurpose that across your socials. Maybe you have an app you can put it on. Maybe you create shoppable snippets and add them across your website. But it could also be the other way around. Maybe you import some user-generated content and add and display on your PDPs, or maybe you have a really popular TikTok that you can make shoppable and add as a lovely banner on PLPs or PDPs or whatever. Really think about how can you repurpose your content, because that's both going to cut cost in production and in time as well.
Love that. I think the customers I'm privileged to work with all are really blown away by the UGC and also the ability to repurpose campaign content too. And sometimes when they look at how much content is actually out there across all channels, it's really bringing that together and then using it again,
Yeah.
right? And letting it live on, like we talked about evergreen content. And I think the other piece you touched about in terms of visibility with the fab button and the example Shannon just gave as well is something that's really helping capture attention of consumers in this very busy time, right?
100%. Yeah, and think about it. If you're someone new starting out with video commerce and you're like, oh, we don't actually have the capacity to produce all of this content, chances are you already have content at the ready that you can import and start making shoppable. It doesn't have to be like this huge project of producing brand new content. You can use what you already have.
Absolutely. And I love seeing what some of our customers are doing. Brands, Clarins, of course, with what Shannon and the team are doing. Also Victoria Beckham and some of the things they're doing with shoppable video. Are there any brands that you're seeing in the space where you would call out some of the video commerce strategies that you've seen as a consultant?
Oh, this is a difficult one because you mentioned Victoria Beckham and they do it so well. It's so beautiful what they're doing. Basically, their website, for anyone who hasn't visited it lately, it looks like a shoppable fashion magazine. It is perfect. But in terms of who really nails it at the holiday season, I want to say Saks Fifth Avenue. They kill it every year. They come up with like a comprehensive content calendar across product categories, and it's done in a very classy and tasteful way. They start as early as October, and then they just broadcast all throughout Q4. I think they do it really well. In the Nordics, I'm of course biased, but objectively these guys do it so well. Metas Group, they are a health and beauty retailer in the Nordics, and they do a lot of themed shows also throughout Q4. For example, during Black Week, they stream every day, so they have a show for each campaign. So maybe it is skincare one day, fragrance the next, and that's super impactful. They do marathon streams, Christmas streams, end of year streams, and they're all themed, and the hosts are like dressed in proper themed attire. It's super fun to look at. For new collection drops, if we're talking luxury a little bit, this could either be on the digital clienteling side or like smaller events, so invite only. I would direct the attention to someone like Louis Vuitton or Dior. They do incredibly amazing invite only events where they invite their VIP customers to show them a collection before it actually drops and be the first people to shop that. And that's a great strategy that you can easily implement in your own business, regardless of price point. I want to say, if you just want to really spoil your top customers. So those would be like three good examples of people who really nail it during the holiday period.
Love that, and I would recommend our viewers and our community having a look at those sites. And there's so many others within our customer base and across the industry that are doing some really incredible, innovative things through the power of video. So, Cecilia, thank you for sharing that, and we're going to welcome you back for the crystal ball phase, where we're going to dive into trends. We've talked a little bit about what we're seeing now, but I know we're super excited to talk about some trend predictions. So, with that, I'd love to welcome Shannon back.
Hello, I'm back.
Hi.
Hi.
You're back with us. Fantastic. We've got a full house. So we talked a little bit about what you're doing today, right? And some of the innovation that you're driving already. I think what people really want to know about are future trends as well. Like, what is it that you're seeing in terms of consumer behavior, right? And the trends that you're seeing that you'd like to touch upon or share with us, through your crystal ball.
Yes, well, every year I think we all say it, don't we, that Black Friday is starting sooner than ever. I think by next year, who knows, we'll be starting in summer. I can see it, but hopefully not. But definitely, consumers are shopping around a lot earlier, and they are becoming a lot more savvy with their shopping habits. So the competition is high. I've seen it already out there in the market. So we try to optimize Bambuser so that we can highlight our unique selling points in more detail through the platform, whether that's highlighting our loyalty program or our offers on free delivery or loyalty points. And that helps us to build a deeper connection to give us that kind of loyal customer base. So I can see you've shared the screen. So something that we have already been doing, because I wanted to mention about personalization, how that's not becoming just a nice to have. It's like an expectation from all consumers now. When you visit a website, you expect it to be tailored just for you. You want to see the content, as I mentioned, that's relevant to you. So in order to deepen our personalization, we carry out paid virtual events. So we are the only market in Clarins, in our global market, that do these. So this was recently shared on one of our global webinars. You're more than welcome to read what I've put there, but I'll just try and break it down for you. So on the right there, you can see what a virtual ticket looks like on our product pages. And What your virtual ticket will get you is exclusive access to a private event with either our in-house beauty coaches, and seasonally we also have guest hosts, such as in October we had an award-winning influencer and skincare doctor join us
Oh, wow.
for a little bit something extra, something special. And so not only do they get access to that exclusivity with the people, 3 to 5 days after purchasing their ticket, they receive a small kit of travel sizes that they can follow along with our demonstration with at home. So we're not just doing everything through a screen now in terms of eventing. We're kind of, you hear it all the time. Oh, I wish you could have smell-o-vision. I wish you could smell this product.
Yeah.
Well, by doing this, we're allowing them to touch on those other senses. They can smell, they can feel the product, they can try it for themselves. So that especially helps with conversion. Something that I'd really like to touch upon next year is even more personalization with this, perhaps analyzing who are purchasing these events, who are attending, and tailoring it to them. And also potentially your partner has a birthday coming up, maybe they want to get everyone together and they can purchase an event like this that we can do in their homes. But something I'm really passionate about, people absolutely love it. We have a really loyal consumer base that come back time and time again to see what's new. But that's something I'm especially proud of, which takes personalization to the next level.
No, that's amazing, and everyone talks about personalization at scale. It's wonderful to see it in this manner that you're doing it at Clarence. And you touched upon something. Just to ask you a question: is this bringing groups of people together on the virtual consultation, so you could have a few different people on the call interacting with the products? Is that kind of what you're also looking to do?
I think long term, yeah, it would be great to be able to see the viewers at the same time. It's not currently something that we're doing, but we had 2 hosts for the most recent event. A little bit like what we're doing here today. It would be like us hosting this event and all of you watching at home. I wish I could have sent a little sample pack to you, but I didn't today. Maybe next time. You'll have to buy our next event ticket.
Absolutely.
And follow along at home.
Absolutely. I'd love to. I mean, my skin's looking okay today because I use the filters that we have on the performance. But next time you can definitely send me something because I do need it. So I think one of the things you touched upon, and something that always kind of keeps me up, is around marketeers and people in the space being more and more data driven, right? So making data driven decisions. So there's the science and the creativity. The art and the creativity, but then there's also the science side. And how do you capture these data points? What are you using to make some of these decisions by putting these things and introducing these new types of events, for example?
Yeah, it's really hard to find that balance of doing all of your decisions based on data, but then the other part of you is doing it from your gut or your knowledge or your experience. I definitely like to combine the two. I think we've heavily relied on consumer feedback in the past, and that's what's driven our kind of changes. But next year, I'd like to really switch it up and definitely like dip into the data a little bit more. I think we'll see the results spike even more because then it's got a little bit more strategy to it rather than a nice to have. So I mentioned that personalization isn't just a nice to have anymore. These were previously kind of just a test and learn, something that we thought, oh, this is nice. We can do this. It's just something a little extra. But we have all the data there. We know who are purchasing these tickets. I want to dig a little deeper into that and tailor it to them and thank them for being so loyal.
Absolutely. No, thank you, Shannon. And one of the things you keep touching upon is personalization is a must have. And some of the analysis we've been doing as well, we see that like 67% of buyers today expect that personalized experience. So it's great that you're tapping into that. Just coming back to Cecilia now that we're going to hand over the crystal ball to yourself. Um, same question as Shannon. What are some of the consumer and customer trends you're seeing that you can share with us, across industry, and just some of your thoughts, Cecilia, please.
Sure. So I have kind of prepared a roundup of the biggest trends that we've seen this year, and then in just a minute I have what I predict we'll see next year. But some major trends that we've seen across channel this year, I really want to say that in like beauty, fashion, music, and food, there's like a general gravitation and look towards Southeast Asia, where especially South Korea is driving trend. So like K beauty and J beauty are really trending. We see a lot of trends from Chinese Douyin, which is the Chinese version of TikTok, which are like making their way to the Western Hemisphere. So a lot of Eastern trends coming to the West, and then food has been bigger than ever. If anyone's watching in the food space in any way, I would totally jump on that bandwagon, even though it's a trend now. It's still gonna, we predict it's still gonna go really, really strong. So either if you do actual food products or anything food adjacent, like glassware, cookware, kitchen appliances, get on that trend because there's so much reach for anything food. And we've also seen this year a real shift in how much people are actually spending on food, both on the daily and restaurants and special occasions. And then across the board, across all industries, luxury has been huge. Luxury hauls, designer brands, and high-end experiences are in very high demand. I think we've all seen about the aesthetics, old money aesthetics, and coastal grandma, and whatever the styles are called, being the go-to. But even though everyone might not be able to afford luxury, dupe culture is alive and well. So people are dressing luxurious on a budget. That's been a huge, huge trend across all industries as well this year.
Amazing. No, thank you so much, Cecilia. And then we see a lot of trends coming from China, right? I think ourselves at Bambuser, it's something we saw, after the pandemic. We saw this trend for live commerce, and that's something we were lucky enough to pioneer in the Western Hemisphere. What are the trends? So the trends you just talked about, how can some brands adopt them today, and how do you see them adopting them?
So I definitely, I want to say to keep up with trends, it's important that you understand them, right? So I would always take more of an organic and also structured approach to keeping up with trends. So it's important that you yourself are a consumer. You might not want to follow every trend, but you should at least try and immerse yourself a little bit. So what I do, even though I might look at trends with a slightly different lens, because I want to make sure how can I help my personal customers utilize these trends across whatever content they're doing. So my strategy is basically every time I see something pop up, maybe 3 times, I start researching. It wasn't so difficult with Lovely Mudeng, just to mention something super recent. But if you see something about 3 times, maybe you should try and research a little bit, and then you can go down the rabbit hole. But just the awareness is a big part of it. And then I also like to approach it from a more systematic way of consuming. So I love subscribing to like top newsletters I like to be informed in tech. Pop culture is quite easy for me because that's what I do day to day. Finance, global politics, and stuff, to see like what's really trending on a global scale. And for my favorite platforms, I would definitely consult YouTube and podcasts, especially if you want to learn anything about it could be the latest trends in marketing or whatever. I would go to those platforms. So that would be my tip to anyone who's working with content or optimizing the customer experience, to adopt both an organic and a strategic mindset for consuming trend content.
Amazing. And then just bringing that question to you, Shannon, just hearing some of the thoughts that Cecilia had. We talked about personalization. Are there any other trends, any other consumer behavior that you're seeing that you would just like to touch on as the final part of this segment? Anything else you would like to share from your viewpoint?
Well, I just loved hearing Cecilia's tips, particularly for other brands and ones to watch. You mentioned Victoria Beckham earlier today, so I had the pleasure of meeting them a few weeks back at an event with Bambuza, and seeing their homepage especially, and how it was like exploring an editorial magazine or something, but on video. I think that's the direction we're going. And someone did share something with me at that event, that customers' attention spans are getting smaller and smaller, whether we like it or not. You have to grab their attention within milliseconds.
Yeah.
So by having that video content there at their fingertips and grabbing their attention, I think that's the way we're going. And it's one thing browsing social media, everything is on video, to then go onto a website that can look quite static. I think that's the trend that I definitely fed back to our ecom teams, that I think is one to watch for sure.
Absolutely. And it's difficult, right? With the longer form content these days, we've gone from kind of blog posts and long editorial to shorter, snappy content in terms of swipes and tweets. So you see consumer behavior being driven in that fashion. So yeah, no, definitely agree with you, Shannon. I think we've got a great segment coming up now. I just want to remind everyone, please ask any questions and comments, because we will have a Q&A at the end of it. But now I want to hand over to Cecilia for a Trends Watch session, which she'll be taking you through a little bit deeper in terms of what's coming and how you can embrace it. So I'll hand over to you, Cecilia, and then we'll be back for some Q&A to wrap up. Thank you, everyone.
Perfect. My favorite topic. I love discussing trends, and I've been looking at what I think will be coming up for 2025. I have 7 different trends to share with you guys. I'll run through them quite quickly, but I found trends that will span across industries, so hopefully it's valuable for everyone watching today. And I'm not going to mention trends like personalization and convenience, influences, sustainability, all of these things that we already know are trending and will continue to be doing so. So I want to focus on things that are new. And I think that you really have the opportunity to go in and almost dominate right now, if you are fast, because 2025 is fast approaching. And the first thing that I really think will be taking off in 2025 is UGC, so user generated content. It is wildly thought of as a more authentic type of content. It's more relatable than influencer content or the polished campaigns that we're used to seeing from the classic ad campaigns and stuff. UGC, I think, can be both from employees, so anyone who's working with you already. It could be store staff, it could be digital agents, it could be your social team sharing their favorites. Employee advocacy is going to be huge and used in a UGC kind of way, but of course also directly from your customers. So people literally just sharing their love for a product with their own community and own following, even though they're not even influencers. They're just sharing because they love to. So we see that social platforms are implementing more ways to push UGC. For example, Instagram are soon launching a feature that's called collaborative carousels. So now you can collab on videos already, sharing across profiles, but you will be able to do so with carousels too, which means that you can collab with a bunch of different profiles on one carousel. So that could be one way to feature your customers' content in your own channel in a way more authentic way. And I would encourage anyone to tap into this trend by encouraging your customers to share about your products. You can also incentivize your employees to do the same. Make sure that you use any collaborative functions on the socials already there, but also implement user-generated content across your ecom. You could, for example, use Bambuser to make it shoppable. They have recently launched a feature called UGC Import, where you can literally import content directly from Instagram by searching on hashtags. So it can be done at scale really, really fast. So that's definitely trend number 1. Trend number 2 is in general in the consumer space. Experiences are going to be on the rise still, and everyone wants to be a first mover. Everyone is kind of a wannabe influencer at this point. And thanks to social media, every day we see a new trend, and this is definitely one for the more young demographic. They're always looking for new entertainment, and because of this, we will see retail experiences continue to rise. So people really want to be the first one discovering a hidden gem, because that really boosts social capital. Either if you're an influencer, an upcoming influencer, or if you just sharing with your own network. Hey, I spotted this really cute cafe, even though it was in a touristy area. You should definitely go here instead of standing in line over there. Tying into everything from travel to food content as well. It's highly sought after to break the news online, basically. So, what you guys can do watching today is try and curate branded experiences. You can collab, for example, with local businesses if you're operating in different markets, if you have some sort of physical footprint. You can double down on limited editions, either like geographically. So I know some brands, such as the perfume brand Le Labo, they have city exclusives. So fragrances you can only get in certain cities. That's a great way of doing things like that. Or of course, just regular time limited editions. You can share the news ahead of time with your core customers or your influencer network, and then just let them spread the word about anything new. So really utilize the old-fashioned word of mouth instead of pushing, and just buying more ads, basically. The third trend that I really think we're going to see is ethical AI skepticism, and humanity as a luxury. Because the rise of AI also means the rise of skepticism. We don't need any more generic content. It's perceived as inauthentic and lazy. I think we've all been browsing LinkedIn lately, and every post sound the exact same, and we just automatically turn off our attention, right? And we don't want to risk that if we've actually sat down to spend time creating content and or buying up ad space. So you run the risk of losing your brand's unique voice if you overdo content creation solely relying on AI in the messaging. I'm not saying don't optimize the process of using AI to find the most viral moments in a video, cut them down, but the actual scripting and stuff, I would recommend that you don't solely rely on AI to do that stuff. And also, we see more and more discussions about ethical AI and the rise of, for example, artists who are crying out about having their work repurposed and used for training models. So this trend also taps into the general fear of AI taking away jobs across industry, which basically means that if you as a business put AI generated on something that's like customer facing in the B2C space, chances are that they're going to distrust the information. So I would definitely keep that messaging as more of a B2B if we have any B2B people watching, because AI is amazing. We all agree on that, but it also has the risk of being perceived as less authentic. So we want to be more responsible with the use of AI, and the legislator will follow suit as well. So human touch will essentially be a luxury, which is good for anyone watching today, as video commerce is essentially adding that human touch to your e-com. So double down on showing actual humans, either via UGC, your own employees, influencers, whatever, and then blast that throughout your channels. And by all means, you use AI to edit and stuff, but make sure that humans are really front and center. Then trend number 4 is going to be the search for like-minded communities. I think everyone knows that discussions online can sometimes be really negative and borderline toxic, and too many people, they're opting out of discussions because it's too much, it's too loud. So if you can, with your brand, curate a positive and like-minded community, people will flock to you. So make it clear that positivity and safety is a priority in your community, and reinforce those guidelines. If I can give a super recent example, it would be the mass fleeing that we're seeing right now from Twitter/X to Blue Sky instead. So people are really trying to figure out a way of having genuine discussion and human connections that are not taken over by a bunch of people just yelling stuff into into the the space, basically. So if you can in any way create those authentic and positive communities, it's going to be a really, really strong thing for your brand. And then wiser spending is something that we're going to see too. People are going to be more conservative with their spending because of economic uncertainty on a global scale. So they're going to think more about, what am I actually spending my money on? They're going to spend more time researching product options, prices, and also possibly dupes. And this is not necessarily a bad thing for retailers or people selling products in general, because you can easily accommodate by making reviews more visible on your website, using user-generated content, as we talked about, for a more authentic way of connecting with your audience, and also create content that takes this trend into account. That could, for example, be price tiered content. So maybe you create if you're in the fashion space, get the look on 3 different budgets. So there's something for everyone, and just being aware of the reality that a lot of consumers live in right now. The 6th trend that I think we're really going to see explode in 2025 is a combination of mindfulness, spirituality, and longevity. And you might think, Cecilia, what does that have to do with anything? And especially when it comes to shopping. But there is a big feeling of chaos in the world, and people are sort of longing for a break a little bit. And this ties into the like-minded community cravings that we discussed before. We see a rise in the popularity of meditation, mindfulness, and spirituality. So, for example, astrology and crystals are extremely popular amongst women, while men, they go towards meditation practices and connecting with nature, more outdoorsy stuff. Also, we see the longevity trend continue to rise with cold plunging and self-monitoring. And this is, of course, great news if you're in any way in the health or consumer electronic space, because you'll really be able to help your customers and service their need in this area. So you can switch your content creation, if we look at it with like a content creation lens, to include more health and longevity stuff, to accommodate, basically. And the good thing is that it's relevant for every demographic and every sort of target group. And the last trend that I want to touch on, that I think we're going to see in 2025, is going to be home optimization, because working from home is still very popular. I'm streaming from my living room here in the Copenhagen area, and we spend more and more time at home, especially the older generations. So that is leading us to wanting to optimize our personal space as much as possible. And this is a great opportunity, again, if you're in the consumer electronics space or in the home space at all. So focus on, it could be, how do you organize your home, smart appliances, air fryers or lights. It could be digital assistants, robot cleaners, basically anything that can help optimize the home space. And again, have that in mind when you're creating content. Maybe it's not as much as creating going out looks. Maybe it's more about, how can you dress for a professional but comfortable working environment at home. So again, thinking about being aware of what's going on in the trend landscape, and just accommodating your messaging to fit those trends. And those would be my top 7 predictions for 2025. I hope we're not coming back next year and putting me on the spot to see what actually happened.
Amazing, Cecilia. Thank you so much for that. And welcome back, Shannon. So I made notes, right? So we are definitely going to come back next year and hold you to those, Cecilia. I'm going to ask you a really quick question. I promised I would go straight to the comment section there, because there's a lot of questions coming through for Shannon and yourself, Cecilia. You mentioned 7 trends, right? So you said UGC, experiences being the first mover, ethical AI,
Yep.
like-minded communities, wiser spending, mindfulness, spirituality, and longevity. And the final one, home optimize, it went very well, because I heard you say older people are spending more time at home. That's definitely myself. So if you had to pick 3, right, the magic number of 3 things that stay in people's minds, what would the 3 be?
Ooh, UGC,
Okay.
experiences,
Mhm.
and like-minded communities would be my top 3 picks.
Perfect. Okay, great. And that's a great intersection into our Q&A, because one of the first questions we have is from Ted for Shannon. So Shannon, how often do you recommend going live to build a community?
I saw that question too. I thought it was a good one. And it does lead nicely from your top 7 trends, Cecilia. I have to watch this all back. Ted, I think it really depends on your demographic. So who you currently have, it will be different for us than it might be for you. I don't know what industry you're in. But finding that regular spot and sticking to it. For example, we have done every Friday at 4 o'clock. People know that that's the day and the time to catch us. So it's routine, it's structure for them. And if they don't see us on a Friday at 4, they are concerned. They have like a recognition with those people that go live every Friday at 4, and it becomes part of maybe their working from home ritual, maybe how they wind down for the weekend. But for your community, it might be a Monday morning when they think, I don't know, maybe they're looking at wellness. How can I get my week off to a good start? But sometimes it can be trial and error. So test and learn, see what works well.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Shannon. And I hope, Ted, that gives you a good feel for going live to build those communities, those all important communities, as we all target more and more first party data. Some great comments as well. Sorry, I got distracted because I'm reading one from Peter here, Kolkoto, and around video commerce being the next step in online. I think that was a fantastic comment. Some great comments. One more from Thomas Herman. I'm going to come back to you for this one, Shannon, and then Cecilia, I would like your opinion too. So do you have experiences on applying this to more of a conservative customer that is of a higher age that might not use as much social media, like someone like myself? Like, how would you do that? Or what would your recommendations be? Or if you could just give me some thoughts on that question from Thomas.
For sure, it's a great question. And I think what people might find really surprising when it comes to video commerce is that both the younger and the older demographics respond almost equally well to it. I've been working with a lot of brands where their target group are aged 45 and above, and actually they love tuning in to entertainment like this. They also want to be entertained. It's just about how do you get to them, basically. And I would recommend good old email. That is definitely what I have the best experiences with, and I've seen the best results really doubling down on email and using that to drive traffic to your video commerce initiatives. And I also think it's very important when you're talking to maybe a more conservative or slightly older target group that you have hosts that they can see themselves in, so that you are really mindful about your casting. Don't cast some 20-year-old model to talk about anti-aging skincare, for example. Make sure that you find someone who's authentic and who might be in a place in their own lives where they might as well use the products that they're talking about. So I think you can definitely opt for a lot of the same strategies, but just tweak them slightly, of course. So find what communication channel your target group prefers. Find a good look and feel that they would respond well to, and then also don't be afraid of taking, like, reducing the tempo a little bit. It doesn't have to be super fast, super snappy like they see on TikTok. You could have slightly longer streams at a slightly slower pace. Maybe you take more time to answer questions along the way. Those would be 3 tips for reaching an slightly older demographic.
Amazing. And Shannon, anything you'd like to add there in terms of diversity of different types of users and communities?
I was nodding my head along with Cecilia. She's pretty much covered all the areas that we look after. So targeting through email, that's how we kind of work with our CRM teams, making sure that it's visible there. Again, making sure your hosts are all different kind of types of people and real equality there and diversity with your hosts. And don't take Facebook maybe for granted. I think, for example, my mum spends a lot more time on Facebook than I do, and that's where we get a lot of our, like, how do you say it? More of the higher age group we find are very engaged on Facebook over Instagram, for example.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Shannon. One more back to you. How many people and which roles are included in your internal live shopping video commerce team? And that's from Karen L.
Is that for me? Yeah.
Sorry, Shannon.
Just
Yeah,
checking.
calling out.
Because I went to answer on Cecilia's before, to apologise. From my team right now, I think they're all watching. Hi, everyone. It's myself, and we have 5. We call them Clarins Beauty Coaches that host the events. They carry out virtual consultations, so one-to-one consultations. But then we have our wider digital team, which we are part of, which is the e-com, content, CRM, acquisition. Hopefully that gives you a bit of an idea of how many of us there are. But in other markets, it's not that many. So you don't have to go in on, some might think that's a big team.
Yeah.
Some other markets have less than that. They have one host and they start off small. Maybe they'll get to our level. Maybe our team, hopefully one day, will be even bigger.
And that's
We also do work with customer service quite a lot as well, actually, cross-functionally, because it's a fine line between how do we stop the kind of like customer service queries coming through when you're after kind of product advice and conversion, but rather than kind of not fighting, but going against each other and redirecting the consumer, I'd rather support. But yeah, we also work with them as well.
I mean, this because it's such a new space. There's so many ways this can go. I was with a customer in the US in Sonos, and they were telling me the amount of chat comments they get around specific product lines. It's like they have to triage that and find the intelligence from it, so they use it before they're launching products. So it's a really I've seen so many different use cases, and it's great to be part of an industry that's kind of growing in this space. So thank you so much, Shannon, for that answer. I'm going to go to a question from Maria Parker. Cecilia, what is your view on having an influencer or an employee as a host for a show?
That's a great question. So actually, we know that from a conversion perspective, there's not a huge difference. They are equally as efficient at converting. But what we do know is that influencers, of course, are amazing at driving more traffic because they already have an established community. What I would recommend when you're looking for an influencer host for your show is, of course, finding one that already has some sort of media training, who knows how to do video. Don't pick someone who's very image based, for example. It needs to be someone who is used to thinking on their feet if you're going live. If you're pre-recording, that's definitely a different story. But I would pick someone who's already video based, and then I would make sure that you really use their community leading up to any event to drive traffic and signups, but that you can't necessarily only rely on their name to bring it home, so to speak. I think what's actually more important than which host you're picking is, are they charismatic? Are they trained for the camera? And also, do you have a good script that is basically delivering some value to the audience? So for example, I hope we're delivering value to you guys here today, really giving away actionable takeaways. If we were just chit-chatting, you would have locked out, even though whoever was sitting here, some big name person, right? So that's actually the exact same thing that we see in video commerce, that sometimes it's not really that important. What is important is that if you want to build up a super profitable sales channel, is that you find a setup that works for you long-term and on a high frequency basis. So if you don't have the budget to invest in an influencer, go with your internal employees, because the most important thing is basically that you broadcast often, that you go live often, to build a living sales channel. And then you can sprinkle some influencers in there. Maybe you have a certain format for the influencers, but it does not have to be your bread and butter. I wouldn't stress too much about hiring a really high profile host. That should not be your barrier to entry.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Cecilia. We're coming to time. So I just wanted to say, were there any final thoughts from yourself or yourself, Shannon, that you'd like to share with the audience? Anything you think we might have missed that you would like to share?
I think my key takeaway here that I would like to share is that for anyone inspired that wants to step into this space themselves, I briefly touched on it before, is start off small, make some really small changes that can make a huge impact. For example, the floating action button for us, it was something that was already there in our back end. We already had that functionality. All we had to do was click a button and it's made a huge impact. Wow. So don't be afraid to explore some of the areas that you've not yet discovered. You've already got a lot of these tools in your pocket. Wow. That would be
That's the quote. We're going to take that as a quote from you, Shannon. I think that was awesome. Cecilia, any final thoughts from you before I just wrap up?
Sure. My closing remarks would definitely be for anyone watching. We're talking a lot about, big brands, huge established players. But what I really want to share is that we have so many customers, see so many customers and brands globally who are quite small, who have amazing success with video commerce as well. It does not have to be a team of 20 people. When I started just working with this in the beginning, we were 2 people running it. Of course, we had support from the e-com team and people doing the design, UX and stuff. But actually running the day-to-day operations, we were 2 people, and we still sold for millions. So you can really have a very lean operation. It does not have to be a huge team starting out. I would much rather focus on adopting a learning and experiencing mindset rather than thinking about investing in a huge team in the beginning. So again, it doesn't have to be super high stakes investment.
So start small and then it will grow. Totally get it. I just want to give a big shout out to the beauty coaches at Clarence for joining us as well, as you said, Shannon, and also to Katrina on the marketing team at Bambuser for putting this together. Huge thank you, Cecilia and Shannon and everyone for listening. We'll be chopping this up into shoppable bits of content. Well, not shoppable, but actual pieces of content that you can rewatch and continues to help and inform the community with amazing thought leaders like Shannon and Cecilia. Thank you for joining us, everyone, and I wish you a fantastic rest of your Thursday. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Thanks, Phil. Bye.
Bye.